All right, this feels like a good spot to do this. So, I got tagged in a thing, and I never actually got around to doing the tag. And so now I'm circling back to doing that tag. Amazingly, while I'm in this lovely, lovely, scenic background, it's just Lithia Park, which is a couple blocks from where I'm staying. It feels odd to be doing these quarantine questions because I feel like a lot of these questions are about being shut in and feeling trapped. So we'll just see how I respond to a lot of this. I already saved the questions on my tablet, and preparing if I found a spot to stop and do this, I would go ahead and do it. All right. Whew. Let's see here. Got it. So here's the 10 questions quarantine tag, which I was tagged in by Curious Carly. I'll put a link to that video down in the description, and I'll throw up an info card as well. At the end of this, I need to tag a couple of nomads, and so I have 3 people I'm going to tag, and I'll put that on the end of the video. But for right now, let's get to these questions. So question number 1, how many rolls of TP do you have at this moment? 4. I'm only one person. I'm not honestly going through toilet paper that fast. Even when I couldn't find it, I didn't really panic. I had some baby wipes anyway, so like I had those as backup. I found a couple of napkins at Dollar Tree, and I was like, if I really run out, I'll just default to the napkins, and because they are a thicker material, just not put them in the toilet, put them in the trash can and throw them away that way. So I was never that panicked about toilet paper, even when I couldn't find it. And when I couldn't find it, I had like maybe a couple of rolls, and now I have like 4. Even when I started to find it again, I didn't go into now I need to stock up mode because I just don't see the point. That's my problem with questions. I never have a simple answer. I always have these long answers. 2, what has been the biggest change since the lockdown? So for me, things happened kind of odd. I had just left the state for a job. I just left California to go to Oregon for a job. I got to Oregon a little bit early, but not that early, and I just kind of hung out in my van for a few days. And then when I started the job, I got what's known as company housing or employee housing. So I was in employee housing. We were supposed to close for 2 weeks, and then that 2 weeks turned into a month, and then that month turned into 2 months, and then things were just shut down. And obviously, the 2 week turned into a month before the end of the 2 weeks. The 1 month turned into 2 months before the end of the 2 weeks, and it turned into a full, we're shutting this down and basically need to reassess what we're going to be before that situation had even reached its end point. Long story short, I worked the job I came out here for about 3 days before I found myself, depending on unemployment. And so life happened. So it was all kind of a mess. But they said, hey, if you need a shelter in place, and this was not just to me, but for anybody who had traveled, they have a lot of people who travel in to work the shows, both on stage and off stage. Some people do live here, but for the people who had traveled in, they were like, if you need to stay, we're not saying leave housing. We're saying like the work portion of work is closed. And eventually they were like, you can stay here until June 1st. So honestly, the biggest change has been staying in standard housing. Because that's not my normal life. And I found myself in standard housing instead of my van for quite a few months. I had a plan when I got here that on the way out, I would love to dedicate some time to visiting Vancouver. At that point, I was supposed to be leaving Oregon in April. Of course, it's now the end of May, so I've been here almost a month longer than I expected. But also with all the stuff going on with borders, the sort of free travel options I had before I got here have gone away since I've gotten here. There's a lot of uncertainty about travel, so as I begin to leave, again, situation is changing rapidly. Honestly, it seems like it's getting better. There seems to be more ability to free movement because I waited it out and didn't jump directly back in the van. But it's really hard to say. I mean, the biggest change is like I found myself stuck in this apartment, which is both good and bad. You know, there was a lot of good in it. It allowed me to settle down for a while to like, you know, once I got my head wrapped around there being a reality where I really couldn't plan a move. And the best thing for me to do was to stay still in the situation I was in. Once I got past that, which took a while, I went through like a feeling trapped for quite a while. Once I got past that, I just tried to find constructive things to move forward with. So I think I found positives sort of in the lockdown as opposed to negatives, which may not be true for everybody, you know, and I understand that. Where are you currently parked or docked? As I just said, I'm currently docked until the end of the month, so not that much longer now, in work housing in Oregon, and the van is parked in a parking lot not far from where I am, where it's allowed to be. So yeah. 4, what have you gone without recently? I mean, I have everything I need for food, clothing, and shelter. There's nothing where I'm like, oh, I need it and I can't find it type thing. I have very basic needs, so there's like the hardest thing was like getting my van repaired, and once I got my van repaired, because it did have a radiator situation coming up here, haven't really gone without anything except the freedom to move. Especially early into the lockdowns, I was kind of afraid to go out. So on top of feeling frustrated and trapped, I was also self-trapping myself. The hardest thing to find probably has been a mask. So as like the advisement to wear masks in public started to happen, I didn't want to go out irresponsibly. And so I think finding a mask has been like the hardest thing, which isn't the question. The question is, what have I gone without? And so I would not go outside until I was able to find a way to get myself a mask. The first mask I ordered got lost in the mail. I've since got refunded for it. And then I ordered another mask, and that one came. And then I ordered 2 backup masks that have mysteriously gotten lost. They were cheaply made and not as nice as this one. If I can find it, it's in my pocket. I'm not wearing it right this second. So I have this mask as like my primary mask, and then I had 2 backups. Oh, I also had like a really lame like homemade mask I used for a bit, but finding a way to go out and feel like I was safely within the parameters as far as like wearing masks and touching things, and then being able to find the things I need. That was challenging. Finding wipes was challenging for a while, but I had some in the van anyway. And I just substituted with like paper towels and disinfectant spray from the the universal household sprays that you can get from the dollar store. So like I don't feel like there's anything I haven't been able to find that I absolutely need. Even when the toilet paper shortage was going on, like I had a couple of rolls, and I never got to the point that I was so low that I couldn't find it. You know, I couldn't find a way to like, you know, wipe that area. Like I was always able to take care of that. And so yeah. What are you most grateful for? That I was trapped somewhere with enough accessibility that when I decided I wanted to like get out and be active, which has just been walking, doing some exercising outside, like I had access to those resources. Like I like that I'm in a little betweeny town. Like it's not like so cityfied that you run into people the second you hit the pavement. And there's this beautiful park here. I mean, honestly, this park has been a blessing. As I started to venture out and sort of like untrap myself, just having the ability to go somewhere that was pretty, where you could hardly ever run into people. Early on, there was a point I did avoid the park though, because it was at that point where like a lot of the messaging was confusing. So there were a lot of people here. There's a lot of signs up now about social distancing and what's expected and what's not allowed. But there was a confusing point where I wasn't sure what was going on, so I would only walk sort of in the neighborhood on the sidewalk. But I'm grateful for the fact that I've had that access. I'm grateful for the fact that I found a way to, use this experience positively instead of negatively. There was a lot I felt blown about like 2 months ago that isn't so bad now. It's gonna be okay. It's not perfect. I probably will start panicking around July if I can't figure out what my next work move is. But right now, I'm kind of okay. And there's no immediate panic, and I feel like trying to make too many plans now is just a fallacy. Blue, 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 blue. What do you miss the most? I just miss the freedom. I'm feeling very, very trapped again. I got out of feeling trapped because I started planning, but I'm missing a little bit more freedom of movement. I'm really sad that, sort of like crossing the border to be so much closer to the Canadian border and know that like there's a lot of issues with crossing the border right now, and it's the thing I can't do, so that freedom of choice and movement feels very scary. And it's more the unknown of what I'm going into, because like I've been sheltering in place, not really, except for like going to stores which aren't that far away. Like I haven't really ventured out of a certain bubble since this started, and so like I just miss that freedom of movement, but I don't know what's out there. So I'm in a mixed place about it. How long has it been since you've been at a campsite is the next question. I haven't been at anything I would call a campsite probably since RTR. Mostly because I have been working, so I've been doing mostly urban van dwelling. So like I'm parking, a lot of what one calls stealth parking, or street parking, or urban camping, which I feel like is a misnomer for a while now. And so like probably not since January of 2019. That is something I would like to do more of in the future, is do something that's more at a campsite. But like, I mean, the most legitimate camping I've done has been RTR in 2019. What's your favorite quarantine food? Whatever's in the cabinet. I don't really have a favorite quarantine food. I know I'm a fat girl. I'm supposed to be like very specific about my food. I feel like my answers to these questions are so lame. I don't really have a quarantine food. Right now it's been more about I have a microwave in the apartment. And as I begin to transition out of the apartment and back into the van, I am forcing myself not to use it. This does not answer the question. So that I am in the habit of making food as I would make it in the van. I don't love or hate microwaves. It's like fast food. It's convenient sometimes. And just sometimes the temptation of having it available makes you lean towards it. Again, this is not the answer to the question. I don't have a favorite quarantine food. My biggest goal during quarantine has been about healthy eating. So I'm getting rid of snacks and junk food and stuff like that. And I like everything I'm eating, but I don't have like, oh, this is like my quarantine comfort food. I haven't been doing that. Blue, 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 blue. 9, this is a good question for me. How are you exercising doing workouts? Well, first of all, I walk around this park. And second of all, I'm using my DVD videos in my backyard. My temporary backyard. I'm saying that like I'm going to live there forever. But the backyard of the place where I'm staying, I've been exercising back there. And I've been walking, doing hikes. I did drive out and do There's one hike that I drove to, but mostly I've just been hiking and walking around the park or the neighborhood, and that's been mostly my exercise. 10. What was or will be your pandemic panic purchase? Honestly, it's been a 12-volt sprayer for my van. I have talked about, and I'll probably show this in a future video, and I was inspired because I saw a Chrome from Vanlife found like this little like battery operated like camp shower, and I was like, that's cool, can I find something like that near me? And he found it randomly in a store, and there's really no reference for it, so I started searching online, and I found a little 12-volt sprayer that I haven't tried yet, and it just came in the mail not too long ago, and it was like, yes, I can sponge bath, but I can't really wash my hair good that way. And so I was like, if I have a sprayer, I can do the spray down, the big body spray down, and also do the sponge bath for like the stuff that I want to, you know, do in private. And so I went ahead and I got myself a sprayer, which is in the van right now. And that was my, you know, because I was in housing, I had access to a shower. But I was like, this was an accidental situation. It wasn't planned, you know, and I do not see myself like going to like a hotel if something like this, like if there's a surge up of this again and we don't have a vaccine and they're shutting down things again, or as we start to open up, you know, cases increase and they shut down things again. It's like, what is the main thing I would love to have in my van? And it was like, I would like some sort of sprayer system so that I could wash my hair or at least rinse down my body more thoroughly than you can get with just a sponge bath. Even though I think sponge bathing is very effective. And so I bought a little 12-volt sprayer. I don't know how well it's going to work. It wasn't that expensive. And I'm just crossing my fingers it was a good buy for the van. Okay, was that the last question? Was that 10? That was my 10 pandemic, what was the name of this? 10 questions quarantine tag. Which I'm answering very late because I feel like we're getting to the tail end of the quarantine. And it's starting to, I'm just starting to see more people around. I'm starting to see more things happening. And so, yeah, this feels like a little late in the game. And I wonder how differently I would have answered like 2 months ago when I was like more in a panic mode, more worried about a lot of things that I'm a little less worried about. Like I said, I think my next panic will come around July, because that's sort of where things can start to crash and burn again, if I don't have certain information. So we will see. But in the meantime, I need to tag some people. So I've decided on 3 people, not 2, 3, that I'm going to tag. I'm going to tag Maddie Van Halen. You've been tagged in the 10 questions quarantine challenge. Timothy Ward, I think, is a super cool dude, and so I'm going to go ahead and tag him, and we'll see if he actually like responds to my tag. If you haven't heard of Timothy Ward, he is a nomad who does not live in a van. He does usually temporary, you know, seasonal type work. He is not tethered to like a home base or anything like that, and that's how he's lived his nomad life, and I think it's a very, very unique. So if you haven't heard of Timothy Ward, you should definitely check him out. And then there's a new YouTuber who I have appreciated her videos, so I'm going to go ahead and give her a tag in this, and her name is Sarah Tree. And so I'm going to also make sure I reach out to these guys so they know I've tagged them. And I hope you guys enjoyed my answers. I thought they were rather boring. Thank you, Carly, for tagging me in these questions. And I'm all done with this video.